mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a what? Yeah. You know I be on a what? Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a what? Yeah.
What's up, and welcome to another exciting episode of Ride the Rebellion podcast. With me today is the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Scuderi. Oh, wrong button. Steve Scuderi. There he is. Did I say your name right?
Scuderi.
Close enough. Scuba Steve.
He didn't know it was coming.
No, that's the best part. And I hit the wrong button. Had I hit it perfectly, it would have been great. Those watching at home, you missed a joke. That's it. You should always watch on YouTube. As always, with me today, of course, though, is the king of the South Alabama Turndown and third place in the Scuba Steve International Jump Contest. Dale Boyd of Dale Boyd's Sports Management.
No, my wife doesn't know these two, so I got first place.
Tell her that in the bedroom all you want.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I'm first place.
that's way too long. I would already been done sleeping.
Yeah.
I got to sleep.
Well, this show just immediately left the PG land and no, we're fine.
Yeah, we're just talking about jumping.
I have a gag for you.
Okay, let's
So we can get into the interview.
We
Very
are.
exciting day. I'll tee up who all's here in just 1 second.
That's right. Let's go.
Sponsor roll call.
Mm-hmm.
You say them. I'll tag them.
Okay. Oh, we got new taglines for all of our
Oh, I
sponsors.
don't know. We're going to see how it goes.
Let's do this. This is good.
Okay, here we go.
Coming in hot from Fairhope, Alabama, we got Man of War Tattoo.
Just ink it.
Ooh, perfect. Coming in hot from down the street, we got Run and Try.
Just run it.
All right. Well, you got the runs. Head on over to Run and Try.
Yeah, that's it.
If you got a bike, you need to BTR it or build, tune, ride it.
Well, I had a better one, and I don't want to do the just one anymore. What was the? Oh yeah. No, I don't have one for that one.
All right, build, tune, ride for all of your building.
Yeah,
tuning,
I was gonna say just build it, but you don't need to build your own bike. Let them build it.
That's right.
I get away with it.
Handle it.
Go for it.
And last, but certainly not least, wait, we got two more.
Yeah.
Also in Fairhope, Alabama, Pro Cycle.
Yeah, just ride it.
Just ride it. And last,
Just rode it.
certainly-
Just rode it. That's
Ooh.
it. Just rode it.
Oh,
That's
good.
clever.
Yeah. Last but certainly not least,
Yeah.
Summit Bike Academy.
Just climb it.
There you
They're
go.
all original. I just came up with all of these, right?
All right.
Look, we wanted to get through the sponsors simply because we have a very exciting interview. We have two guests in here today. Obviously, Dale and I are back in the old school mode of sharing chairs.
No, we stayed together last week all week,
glad you
and
pointed.
Drew was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
we've got to be closer, man."
Yeah, I mean, we shared leg aids. It's all right.
We did.
I have tick aids. He has spider eggs in his leg.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, who knows what it is. I did. I'm glad you changed clothes because I gave you the fancy white chair and I was worried you would stain it. I meant to actually have, but that's all right.
Well, the stains could still come.
That's all right. It's Morgan's chair. We'll let her sit in it. And she'd be like, this smells very boyish. With us
Boyish.
today, speaking of boyish, with us today, or smelling? No? He made a face. He made a face. No, in all seriousness, today we're excited because they got to come ride the Reb, which they're always complimentary of. A jump got named after Scuba Steve. That happened. So Jakey Poo's infamous jump that you guys don't know about unless you follow us on social media. Has that even been posted anywhere? Nope.
No, because
So it is brand new. So the first shot you'll ever see of it is Steve sending it for the very first time. We have Steve
Scuderi.
Scuderi.
Butcher away, brother. Butcher away.
Butchering it away. And speaking of people that don't butcher, except butcher them trails,
No.
Toby. Oh no,
This is off to a great start. This is so fun.
Listen,
So we just call him Scuderi, and one of the things that we go through is if you're having a bad day, you've actually been Scuderied.
what does being Scuderied mean?
So
I have such bad luck that, and like they've seen how bad my bad luck is. So when they have a bad day, literally they say, "I just got Scuderied." Like the lowest of the lows of their day is like, "I just got Scuderied."
So naming a jump after them, maybe
No, it's a hard
I don't think it's fair because somebody else built it, but
But they didn't ride it.
Take it.
What's the rule there? I mean, what would be the rule out at Bogachito? If someone built something and who wrote it first?
Yeah, who wrote it first? It's scary.
I think we just come with a collaborative of like, let's call it this.
Yeah.
Most of you know what? Like the guy who comes up with the line usually names it. So whoever built it comes up with the.
What about a feature? So in this instance, that is my line. It's called Birdie. My kids named it because we cut it with our dog. So it's named Birdie.
we
That's
don't
the line
name-
we're on.
We don't name the features.
Right. But we do because we're the Reb and we do things a little bit different and better than you guys.
For sure.
Always.
That's the only shit I can talk right now because I didn't hit it. So we're going with the Scuba Steve jump.
Love it.
I love it. Love it.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's perfect.
It was an awesome jump. So definitely, we love it. That was pretty cool. We had a lot of
I
fun.
was actually, I'm not like saying I was surprised in like a bad way. I was surprised how well it flowed for the fact that he didn't jump it. So like he built it, never jumped it, and it had such a good flow between the step down to the gap.
He was in the right mindset to
He
build
really-
it.
Yeah, from what you told me, he was.
He was zenned out for sure. There's no doubt about it. So interesting thing about you guys, there's a lot to talk about. And as always on the show, there's no agenda. We got the sponsors out of the way with kindness and popularity to get into this. The thing about this particular, having you guys together is in some ways parallel to this relationship. You guys have a little more history. Ours is more recent. But I think it goes in line with like all of mountain biking when we look at it. When we look about like sort of certainly if you're a male, I'm not saying from a female perspective, but none of us in this room are female or identify as that as far as I know. And because of that, we can't talk about it. But what I can talk about is riding bikes with my buddies, with my brothers and that kind of vibe. And one of the things I wanted to talk about in this is you guys have an interesting story. If you decide to segue into talking about the dock, that's great. That's part of it. But I think to me, what's really fascinating is the story that you guys have of like, you had a relationship that was built on mountain biking, fair to say. And then as you guys went through it, you guys separated for a while. There's a gap of time. That's the test of a real friendship is if you can step away from it and then it comes back years later. Could you kind of give us the rundown of how you guys met? Because I think it's kind of, you're doing stupid shit at Windrock on stupid bikes that most
That
people
first.
never-
So, but like, so he can definitely, he's so good at like telling the story.
Yeah.
But like for me, because like obviously him coming back into my life was the tragedy part. So for him to just show up, like when I was, I guess you'd say at my lowest, like for him to show up like out of the blue, as if we never missed a beat, like we had just hung out the day before. Like that was mind-boggling to me because at that point I had 86 mountain bikes all together. I was full moto guy, and when this tragedy happened, all of my mountain bike guys out of the blue coming over, calling me, helping me, bringing food for me, helping me because like I couldn't walk, I couldn't, that was like, and honestly, like now that I guess you could call me a trail builder, whatever you want.
Definitely call you a trail builder. Definitely say that.
Those guys were the reason is because I decided like I need to find a way where I can give back to the people that came to me when like I had abandoned them. I'm like, screw mountain biking.
Wow.
I'm all moto because like he's saying with the Windrock thing, we had gotten to the point we were traveling. So then when I go back up to Swamp, Louisiana, I'm like, I just don't want to ride this crap. I don't want to ride it. So then finding moto, which moto, anybody who's done both, they really transfer over. Downhill and motocross or woods riding are so similar that I could get that downhill fix on a dirt bike. So
So the great part about that is you teased. I am sure that right now people are leaning in because you teased this whole scenario, which was brilliant. And there's a perspective on that we're gonna have to unpack when we get back to it. Can you tee up
Sure.
the scenario of how y'all met? Because I think in the very beginning, where does this unfold? Because he just laid the weight for sure.
He got the cliffhanger right.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Right at bat. So we met and we were back in full Lycra cross country. It was in the early 2000s, and we each had Cannondales, and it was that Sobe color. And we actually whenever I saw him, I was like, dude, we think alike. And sure enough, man, we clicked whenever we started talking. We had to go find some old pictures and some old video. We actually have a video of us in our tight pants and on those two
Toby,
bikes. On those two bikes.
Is that something we could get? We can just plug in somewhere.
Oh yeah. Well,
and look, and like, so we had our little mountain biking group.
but it's cross country.
Right. But like him and I, you know, and you could like probably get into this, like we were into like the punishment. So there was a trail system, what is it? Clear Springs, Homachita, and it's got 3 10-mile loops. And we couldn't get any of our people to ride all 3 loops, which we called the trifecta. So him and I ended up with this real special bond because him and I would go to the park. We would ride 2 of the loops, and the rest of our group would show up to ride whatever that one loop that they were going to ride for that day. And so he was the guy, was like, whatever it was, whether it's free ride, downhill, XC, like him and I were like, we're finding that next level.
That sounds familiar.
Always clicked. I mean, it just always clicked. We were into endurance riding. I mean, it was 30 miles of trail that was very, very hard to ride. And it was the only person that would actually want to go ride it with me.
Because 2 of the trails were actually hiker trails. So they weren't built for bikes.
Oh God.
They're rooted, they're blown out, water ruts. And him and I are just like trying to finish that trail and then go ride the XC trail.
Thank God you guys had e-bikes, right?
Yeah.
To set perspective, though, what is those Cannondales? What is the travel on that in that era of riding?
So that was a hardtail.
He had a hardtail with that head shock, which was an abortion.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, and I had a scalpel with the lefty fork.
And none of it worked. And then, you know, even before I met him, I had a Cannondale Super V. And that Cannondale Super V had 2 inches of travel, and it did not work.
Yeah, I rode his bike with the head shock. It might have actually been better if he had a rigid fork.
Yeah, it would have, because it punched back. I mean, it didn't have rebound. It was no rebound. Punched back harder than it was the hit.
Hey,
But we kept on riding those things, and then it evolved into we had kind of got a little free ride scene. And the thing that I always remember, this crazy guy. I mean, this guy he's kind of like Bug, but a little bit crazier. And this guy named Lou, and he's like, man, let's go to this place called Windrock, and I've got a lefty on Profit, and I've got a lefty. I'm still in Lycra, and thank God it rained so bad at Windrock that we had to go to Ocala. You remember that?
So I didn't actually go with you guys the first
To Ocala.
trip because I was supposed to be going with my family to Disney World. And Lou was like, dude, like you do not want to go to Windrock right before your family trip because in case you get broke off, you know, your wife's never going to forgive you. But like, so check this out.
Oh, wait,
before the story with Lou, him and I were spandexed out in our XC bikes, heart rate monitors, like the full kit, right? So we're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. We're at a trail, and him and I are getting ready to drop in for our full on. And this dude shows up with an Ellsworth downhill bike, right? A friend of ours, Bill.
Yeah.
And we were like, what is this dude going to do with this thing? Like it looked like a dirt bike with no motor, okay? Because we had never seen downhill bike, right? So we were like, let's follow this guy. So we follow him in. He's jumping off of crap. He's like going down these steep chutes. Him and I were like, we're sold. We're done. So we immediately took our the scalpel and the hardtail. We traded him in for Profits because at the time that was their big travel bike, right? And then that's where it started. And then we met Lou because we were trying to build basically like you guys' janky stuff.
wait, was this guy actually real or did you guys make him up?
No.
Bill or Lou?
Oh, the guy on the Ellsworth.
No, he was real.
No, it's like follow this guy into the woods. Like he might be fake, and we might just be doing this ourselves. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yeah.
Like, because he was
Like Fight Club.
He was a
skip profit.
guy.
Yeah.
So like that could have went wrong. Following him into the woods alone.
Yeah.
Like we might not have made it back out. But yeah, and then so
He was the downhill prophet that got you guys to buy profits.
He was.
And his name was Nixon.
No, Nixon hears all this Cannondale talk and he gets all tingly.
Oh, yes, probably.
so then we're in our spillway trail, like in New Orleans, and we're building janky stuff.
So set that up real quick because the spillway stuff is interesting. That I heard another interview. You touched on it. But I think that's interesting because, again, this is history of riding in the Gulf Coast. You guys are part of
And
like the
New Orleans.
original, right?
Right,
And then
just like what you guys have at the Reb in New Orleans, we were trying to build whatever little like jumps and gaps and drops. And then that's when Lou comes rolling in and he's like, hey guys, what's going on? Like, hey, let me introduce you to Windrock.
Wait,
We're in a
did
spillway.
Lou drive a van? Please tell me
No.
he drove like an actual van. Like I feel like it's just
Lou was a character, man. He was just absolutely amazing. And when he came on the scene, taking some wind, we were way not ready to go to Windrock, and I had never even done a drop, and he wanted to take us on that trip. Thank God that one got rained out, and then we learned how to do a drop because Windrock back then they had the start of the trail was called Start and Shit. And it was a rock garden into a 7-foot drop, and there was no going around it. You had to do it.
Then you
And-
went into that waterfall. You had to ride a waterfall.
It was
Beside the road, like the next time, well, I don't know if you guys go to Windrock. When you're taking the shuttle road, there's a section where you look over, there's a cliff, and then a waterfall. And that was their trail. And we were like, what do we do with this? And that's where you had to go. Like, come on.
Dear Lord.
So when we did that, we would come back and we would try to find things around the area. And the two things that we found was I talked a little bit about this. We found this canal that it would kept on eroding every flood. It would erode more and more. And believe it or not, the texture was a lot like it was in Virgin, Utah, where whenever you would start chipping away at it, if you fell, it was like powder. So it was like big mountain riding. And we had a 10-foot drop off of that thing.
And it was sketchy.
Oh,
you guys
was it
would have
sketchy?
loved it. Sketchy.
right up our alley.
One pedal stroke, you fall off of it, and you're like 6 feet from the canal. So then you had to slide and brake.
Oh, nice.
Dear Lord.
It was.
I have a picture at my house of that, dude.
I got a big picture
The big
of that too.
Bill gave us the big.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
our our van guy. He gave us.
Yeah, the van guy.
Yeah, right.
Have those guys come and seen what you guys did at Bogue Chitto?
One of them has. Lou's come back and he was just kind of blown away.
But he came like in the infancy of
Yeah,
it.
he hadn't-
He hasn't seen it since.
I think it'd be sweet to have like an old picnic of your Windrock trips of like those dudes just come. You guys don't have to ride. Just come and hang out and look at what the progression of it has been.
He got into moto when I got into moto.
Yeah.
And he's never turned back.
never look back.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting how like that, some of that stuff, it all ebbs and flows because it's boys with hobbies. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, a lot of men generally bounce from hobby to hobby, whether they might play golf, but they got 5 other hobbies or whatever. But there's a few times that something sticks. A lot of guys it's hunting, or a lot of guys it's fishing. What I always find interesting is like the mountain bike guys, when it sticks, I mean, it sticks and it's rooted. But even if they go away, they usually come back eventually, some way, shape, or form. It's just a weird.
It's
at least
because it's a lifetime activity.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what happened to us. I mean, we had done all of these trips. We traveled all over the place, and then my wife got pretty sick. And whenever she got pretty sick, we found ourselves going to the hospital, and we probably stayed 2 weeks in the hospital and 2 weeks off. And we did that for quite a while. So I had to give up the traveling and lost touch with all of those guys. And then she got better. Thank God she got better. Probably after about 7 years of that. She got better, and then at the end of it, I found mountain biking, I found traveling again. I'm like, oh my, this is really, really awesome. And at the same time, gonna get back to what Steve was talking about earlier. Right when I was getting back to it, I get a text from Steve's wife, and she just texted me the picture, and it was a picture of Steve, and he was so messed up. He had actually was on his crotch rock. It's easy for you to say. He was on his motorcycle commuting home from work and came off the bike at about 120 miles an hour and clipped the back end of a truck and came and just tumbled. And, we thought we were going to lose him. We definitely didn't think he was going to walk again. And so it was a pretty horrific crash. He kind of understated whenever he said he had an accident, but that accident was pretty bad. And it was, I just felt like, man, I don't know what I can do, but I'm going to go and try to help him. And it was,
And like literally, like when I went to the, I don't know what the specialist doctor is called. Like after you, like he's gonna do all the surgeries and
Neurosurgeon, maybe? I don't know.
That's spine related.
I don't know. I forgot what the name is, but anyway, like when I first went and visited him, like after getting out of the hospital, talking about what surgeries I was going to have. Like he sat me down. I was like, all right, like I understand like what you do. He says, I just want to let you know you're not doing that anymore. Like you're not going to be, motocross. You're not going to be mountain biking. You're not going to be skateboarding. Like that is something that you need to get past. That was the first thing he's told me, which is that's a hard hit because we're all stupid, like we're thinking like we're doing our job, but we're thinking of that next like the next bike trip, the next time we're gonna do our bro jam at the Reb, like that's what keeps the wheels turning when you're like paying your bills and just crap, and so that was hard, and I just refused to like I'm not doing it. Like I'm going to get better,
He looked like a mummy. He was skinned up all over him. His face was all bad, and I know that he tells a story about how all the bandages was sticking to him. And I'm like, man, this guy's gonna have a rough life, rough going from here. But
so my question is like I don't mean any offense by it. I certainly would do the same. I've had other people, but why? Like, why? What about that? Like, because obviously I'm not making light of yours, but in his instance, these outside guys that came along to check on you, you had gone through. I mean, the fact that your wife is dealing with that every 2 weeks, that's a tremendous amount of stress on you. That's pressure on that. What in your brain goes, you know what? I've been through some, pardon the words, folks, some shit. But then there's a guy over here that I used to ride bikes with that obviously it isn't very non-sexual, but it's a very intimate relationship when you're doing, whether you're traveling together. I mean, we joke about it with us. You're riding together, you're pushing each other. But what about it in your brain made you decide to go like, you know what, screw it, I'm going to go check on this guy? And
whenever you go through something like that, like everybody, they talk about cancer and they talk about illness and they talk about going into the hospital and having those visits. Until you go through something like that, you don't know the little nuanced troubles that you go through. That's just so intense about how you do your everyday life, grocery shopping, paying your phone bill, or doing all of those little things become so infinitely much more difficult. And going through the thing that I went through, I knew that, look, those people need help. Whenever you're going through that, most people just feel sorry for them, but it's like, man, you really need to go help those people. And if anybody knows anybody in a situation like that, go help them, because it's incredibly difficult to go through medical problems. And so, as soon as I saw him, I was like, I'm going to figure it out. And like, whenever he went through the accident, I kind of heard the stories, and he was telling me the stories, and like everything exploded whenever he hit. And whenever he was tumbling, his phone went, his wallet went, his helmet went, everything went. So it was like one of the little small things was like, you know what? I'm going to go get him a phone. I bet he probably didn't get to the point where he can go get a phone yet. So it's like anything that you could do to make that process a little bit easier was, the why of why I went to try to help him after going through what I did with my wife. It wasn't the same thing. It wasn't close, but it was dealing with that hospital and medical issues. It's just so tough.
Dude, like, it's a testament to like what kind of a man he is.
Oh yeah.
Because what happened to me was self-inflicted. I did it to myself. And like he had been dealing with his wife for years. And I knew about it. Like I knew like he was going through things for such a long time. So for him to drop what he was doing and like come help me, like I felt guilty. Like I felt bad, but at the same time I felt blessed because like he said, like I couldn't do it for myself. Like I'm the only person like paying the bills, like the only breadwinner. I don't know what you would call it.
Yeah.
So like all of that, along with the chaos, was all on me, and I couldn't do anything. And like here he comes. He's like, "What do I need? Oh, you need a phone? I'm gonna go to." He went to Verizon and like got it all set up and just handed me the phone and said, "Here's a phone. It works." So yeah,
I think to me, like, your guys' story is a microcosm of the mountain bike community as a whole. Like, we all are owed to each other. Anybody that you meet at the trailhead, and I know that you guys both do this, and it's amazing. It's like you don't know what that person's going through or what they have been going through.
Yep.
And like I try to make it a point, like mental health is a big problem, and men especially, we're not allowed to talk about it, right? Like it's taboo to talk about, but like that's what the rebellion has done for us, and that's what you guys are doing with Bogue Chitto to make that like your guys' hub of, hey, we can help each other be better people, better, feel better. So like that to me, just reaching out to him is like, I love it. I think it gave me goosebumps. Like,
Dude,
that's
but
awesome. That's the
Reb, the Reb is something special. Like, we've been everywhere, been through a lot of different groups, and then me being in so many different sports and stuff like that. But like you guys, it's something like a brotherhood almost, And like when I go there, which I can't tell you how awesome it is that you guys like put up with me, like because like I go to you guys' place and I'm like, ooh, you can put a jump here, we can put a drop here, and like, because I know I'm a lot, right? And
I don't think I honestly could say I don't think I've ever heard anyone complain. More people are like, "Oh, Scuba Steve's coming." We don't call you that. I'm patenting Scuba Steve going forward. You probably
also Drew has me beside him all the time, so nothing you can do is like.
No, you're good.
I still feel, even though you guys like make me feel like I'm one of you guys, I'm still kind of an outsider. So like when I come in, I don't want it to be like, oh, this dude like thinks he knows more than we do, so he's like trying to tell us like how we can be better. Versus like, I just like, you guys make me feel like part of the Reb. So when I come, I'm like so excited to be like, oh man, like put a jump over here.
Right.
Dude, we love it.
He did a trail over at Boca Chica, one of his signature trails that he's done, and we've named it ADHD because he definitely, every time I go ride with him, we absolutely are stopping 25 times. Wait, we could do this. Wait, we could do this. Wait, we could do that.
That's why I'm surprised that we have not set up a play date for him and Jake because him and Jake could do.
No, he has.
Oh no,
It's
No, when we went to the event y'all had, you and Jake sat there and talked forever.
oh right, because the enduro, like I
Yeah.
had been working like 3
Oh, no.
days with
Yeah.
like 3 hours of sleep. So when the event actually happened, I was so destroyed, which thankfully you guys had a setup. So I
Yeah.
just like plopped a chair. And like actually felt bad. I think I actually reached out to you after because like I felt like I talked you guys' heads off.
Oh no, you were good.
But you really don't know him that
Yeah.
well. Then.
No.
It's like anybody who listens to this podcast knows. Like there's signs
Yeah.
now, like at the Bull Gap aid station, there were signs that like, "Did you know Dale has a podcast?" Written multiple times in a row just to reiterate the point that like,
That was hilarious.
I've done it so much I don't have to say it.
yeah, it's pretty stupid. So. In terms of that, so obviously the brotherhood of that led you guys to something else. And again, if I don't know when it comes out, but they can get a lot more detail in this. I don't want to steal away from any filmmaker's journey because like I can ask you guys a million questions about it. But there is a documentary. Let's just plug that real quick so that it's out there for it.
So there's going to be a documentary coming out. It just got dropped through the process, so it's going to be available for streaming. Not sure exactly when, and it's called Right Here, Right Now. And the filmmaker wanted to do a documentary about maybe some folks later in their lives. I mean, I'm 51 right now. That you have a choice whenever you get later in life. Are you going to hang up your shoes and you're going to just take the easy path? Or are you actually going to push forward and do something that pushes this world forward? We're not curing cancer or anything, but we're trying to move the needle. And maybe we always use learning how to play the piano, learning an instrument, learning how to video edit, learning how to play whatever. It's just like, are you going to do something? And so the filmmaker wanted to make a documentary about some people that took a chance and really committed themselves to building something.
Yeah, and look, in spirit of transparency, I've seen it, right? Just so the audience knows. And the thing, I enjoyed it, it was fine. But the story about you guys directly hit my gut. Like, I mean, it's like a gut punch, and I get it, and I resonate with that. That's why I wanted, excited to have you guys both on, because when people get to see it, hopefully they can listen to this as a companion. Because if they get to know or get to ride with you guys collectively, I mean, I know it's a rare treat, probably impossible at Boca Chica, but if that ever gets to happen, if they come to a Jank Fest, or if they're, weirdly, I went to a class once and you guys were both there, which is just a hoot. And it's not a major event and you have time to spend with them, you'll get this vibe from it. And I think it's important because one of the things that Boca Chica and what you guys have done, where your friendship led, and even your actions with Steve and Steve's actions back, even with us, what sometimes I think people forget about is we, as a group, the four of us could sit in here and come up with the best ideas that change the world, right? But the reality of it is we don't have the money. Toby might. We don't have the money. We don't have the horsepower. We really don't. But what we can do is we can change something very small. And I'm a big believer in if you change something in a community and you affect a community, then that community will take it out of a community into maybe a borough or a parish or a part of a city, a county, and then it just grows. And exponentially, that one little bit, that giving him a phone has led to a relationship getting born. You see what I'm saying? And now all of a sudden you have Bogachito and you don't know whose lives you're affecting. You have no idea. You guys may never know that someone went and rode those trails and earlier in the day they were struggling and they just needed that emotional release. You don't know. You don't know the time. Like I solo ride because I need my brain to get clear because I have a lot of shit that goes around in my brain.
You know, and it's funny, like when I go to the park, and it's kind of, I think, the thing about giving back, but like when I go to the park and I try to engage in as many people as possible, and if like one of those people, like I can uniquely change their experience at the park, whether it's like they're looking at a rock garden or they're looking at a jump and they're just not sure, kind of like what we did today. And like, if I can like get them through that or get them excited about it, or even if they just want to ride an XC trail and just get that vibe, like I guess I feel like I'm a vibe person. I don't really care like about being the fastest guy on the trail. I don't really care about, being the coolest guy, like the turn down. But
Nice toss. Nice toss.
Called me out on it.
Little
Jeez.
throw. That was good.
But if I can change somebody's experience at the park and then make that community, like, then I feel like I did something kind of like what you did for me, So, yeah.
The families, it's really, talking about that and talking about affecting, we are actually getting some feedback about getting the families together. And we have a lot of father-son teams that are riding together. And it's really cool. I mean, it's like, I wish I had that with my father to be able to spend that kind of quality time. And we're seeing that a lot. And we're seeing, the girls that are coming out and the female community that we're starting to build. We have monthly rides where it's just females just together, and I'm seeing a lot of guys like kind of dragging their girlfriends, and then so I'm going up to them. I'm like, "Do y'all know we have an all women's ride once a month?" And their eyes kind of light up. So kind of making those impacts, and we're seeing them. And there's a bunch of them we're not even seeing that's happening, and it's pretty rewarding to be a small part of it.
So what's fascinating to me is like I'm a weirdo, so I don't make light of anything, but I also look at the fact that like there's always a beautiful thread. As a filmmaker, I look for a story. As a documentarian, I look for a story, and whether you like it or not, those things happen, both of you to both of you, and they're tragic. But from that, look what's come from it. That's like. To me, and it's not that it wouldn't have happened. It may still have, like in the multiverse, it could be. But those events became catalysts because you made them become catalysts in yourself. You made choices. And now you're literally changing, and like people's lives are changing because of that. And I think sometimes I say that and it sounds like, oh, mountain biking, I'm a high on a horse. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't give a shit if they ride bikes one time and say, that's not for me. And then they go take up golf and they become a great golfer. It doesn't matter. The point is, that experience, that little bit of experience gave them, maybe it's the risk they needed because they never took a risk in their life. And that little bit of, in their mind, just that little hill was a risk. That can change someone's output. It doesn't happen unless you guys meet. It doesn't happen. It doesn't connect. So I'm a weird believer in it, but there is no coincidence, whether we like it or not. There's a beautiful web that we just don't get to see. I just find it fascinating that you're evidence of that connection happening. You guys are evidence of that.
And it's cool, like what Dale was saying about like the mental health thing. And I think that's kind of what the story of the movie is like, we need some type of release for mental health. It's not because we hate our life or we hate what's going on, but it actually gives you that reset. So like when you have this just awesome bro jam at the Reb, Monday through Friday, the following Monday through Friday is actually better and more productive in your normal life because of that release that you had. So like, even though people are like, oh, well, you're just not doing the responsible thing because you're off screwing off on your bike. Well, like, dude, like my week would have been a lot slower and less productive without that release.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. When somebody says that to me, I'm like, well, because I rode my bike, I'm not going to murder you right now. because I'm happier. That's
Yeah.
I mean, and because of my career path and my choices, mountain biking gives me purpose.
Yeah.
Like hosting group rides and like organizing events and like getting people together. That makes me feel good. Like my wife is always like, "You're going to ride again?" Like, yeah, but they need me. You know, like it's oddly like I'm not running from my family needs me as well, but it's like I've been here all weekend with y'all. Like I need a few hours.
You know, Drew hit on something that I think is so powerful, and people often overlook this. And I love the way our sports progress, and it's not all janky now. Now it's a progression, and we have a 1 foot drop, a 2 foot drop, a 3 foot drop. And what people really don't realize is that as you're going through that process, every single step that you take, you're getting through that risk and you're getting over that risk. You have that feeling in your stomach, oh man, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe I'm not good enough. And you take that and you put it into your professional world and you're like, you know what? That person's going to tell me no, so I don't even want to make that call. It's the same exact feeling. It's the same exact process. And if you go through that process enough, you get more confident even in your professional world. I love that aspect of mountain biking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no doubt that like the change that comes from it. It's like everything else. Whether it's, I mean, fitness is. We always joke that it's you're tricking yourself into fitness. That's one side of it, right? And I think as you get more serious, things change and people change as far as they want to ride and how they want to do stuff. But that's not the end all be all. I think for most people, the reality is for most people, the sport aspect, the competition, the athleticism, whether it's internal, external competition, that the mental health side is the real key. And to the reset side, the productivity side, I mean, that's exactly it. I don't remember where I saw it. There's a study that shows that. There's a data set study that shows the importance of sport in terms of progression, in terms of career. And you go look at stuff, and if you go look at the top CEOs and the people that have pushed really far in their business, they didn't just sit stagnant all the time. They always had something else. Now, they're time management wizards. That's the other side of this because you're figuring out. We joke about it. Yeah, you're a time management wizard. We joke about it. I mean, he called with a deal and we shot a video and I can't wait for that to drop. Hopefully it's out by now by the time this airs, but we did a video. Toby calls. I tell my clients the same thing. I have clients that are in Huntsville. I'm like, listen, I won't charge you for travel because I want to bring my bike. I'll just charge you for filming because I know I can sneak around. That's the aggressive being like, I want to progress in my hobby, but I also need to make money and have a job. Like I get it. So it works on all fronts. Doesn't matter if you're an owner, doesn't matter if you're face-to-face like we have to be, or if you're in a shop or wherever you are. To your point, if you're stacking that up, it does make the week a little bit better. Let me circle back on something real quick on the friendship side of stuff. How long ago was that? What is the span in which you first rode the trifecta to Bogachita? What is that time range?
2003.
Yeah, 2000. So 20 years. Yeah, 20 years.
1 years.
Yeah. So we started. So we started riding in 2003. Couple of years that it gets advanced to going ride Windrock and going ride snowshoe together and going out to Colorado.
Yeah, so the trifecta was probably 2003.
Yep.
Windrock was probably 2007.
2007, 2008.
So that's the progression.
And then we started working on Bogachita 2020. So 3 years ago. 20.
Was it 20? I think the first time we rode Bogachita, which was the OG,
Yeah.
Is
was
that the Zephyr stuff? Was that what it's called?
The original.
which was 19. And then on the flip side of like what he's talking about, you can't get me to go very far. Like he was like, I got this dream and this over here and this. He brings me over to like this, like I guess it was the hub for the frisbee golf area, and it was just cleared woods, which is where now Big Trailhead is. He pulls me into it, and he's like, "This is where it's all gonna happen," and I'm like, "What's gonna happen?" Because we're used to like a weed eater and snips, that's. And he's like, "No, dude, you're not thinking big enough." And so I go a little bit bigger. I'm like, "Okay, I think we're gonna like cut the grass." He's like, "No, dude, you're not thinking big enough." And I still can't believe what he's done to Bogachita because it's like
He did. The great thing about Toby, and I think that he was about to say this, and I'll interrupt and put words in your mouth. He couldn't do it without you.
No, exactly.
he's
Like that's the thing though. Like it's like he needs your like drive to want to do the trail wizardry. right?
And there was the original folks that started Bogachita, because like if it's nothing, I probably am never going to try to have that vision, but they started off with 3, Rob LeDouchier and Mark Chasson. They started it off, and then if it wasn't for this guy, there is absolutely no way I'd have did my piece, and he did his piece, and he doesn't even realize it. You know, you kind of make a step, and then you realize when you look back at what you did. And you know, he was amazing in keeping the creativity going, and just, you know, the push, because we started Megazeph, and Megazeph is our jump area, and it was me and him, and the first rain came, and we're looking at it, we're like, all right, this ain't gonna work. We lost 30% of the jump.
This was literally like maybe 2 or 3 weeks after Preston left. So he had just built it. He leaves, it monsoons and destroys the whole thing. And at that point, I was like, Toby, I think I'm out.
Well, so real quick. So one of the things is like you start trail building and somebody comes in that has the machines and does all that and they make it look great, but nobody talks about how are you going to deal with it after the fact. It's like, it's the maintenance side of things that is way more crazy, and keeping it going and then keeping it interesting, which you've done a great job, both of you, but I know some of it's Steve over there, but like, keeping it I mean, how did you deal with all that stuff? I mean, what do you do on that side of things?
I have never had a bigger, harder sales job than to keep those couple of first people. He was the biggest one, and we have another, Mark Richards, keeps it going on the XC side. And they can't, and I was like counseling centers every time they would come back to me like, this is never going to work. We can never maintain this. I'm like, look, if you keep that little snowball going, it's going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger. And it has, but boy, that was difficult.
Because like the original issue we had was when he built all those machine trails. So basically all of that red clay was layered on top of sand. So then
Similar sort of what we have then.
for sure.
Okay.
And so as soon as it started raining, the rain's like, oh, you have red dirt? Not anymore. Gone. And so we had to learn, because at first Toby, like, he was like, we have to put all the red dirt back. So we would spend hours and hours redoing the red dirt where the sand took it away. And finally we've got to the point where now we just embrace the sand and we embrace the soil that's there. And like, that's the way, like what you guys do at the Reb, like you have some red dirt stuff, but your trail base and your trail is the natural soil. And so we've learned through trials, tribulations, sweat, anger, spit, fire, that we've learned that mix. And you guys seem to have it really well at the Reb, like the mix you guys have.
In fairness, though, I mean, part of that does come from having ridden Bogachita, because we rode there before the Reb was even fully in motion. Yeah. And so we're over there and like, this is not a mean statement, but we're like, well, if these guys did it, we can do it. Like, because we're looking at elevation, not Megazeph, obviously, and not the drop, but the Tower of Terror stuff. But we looked at them like, I rode the classic trails again, and I was like, man, these are kind of fun. We don't have anything like this, but or whatever, the XC, the old Zephyr stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I'd ridden those newer green lines around it, and Cortez Coaster was the one that we knew was the machine trail, right? We knew that one. But we rode all this other stuff, and it's like, man, they're making this work, and they're bench cutting, and they're doing things that are like simple and just beat in. You beat the trails to existence.
So funny enough, like I have a saying that keeps me humble, and it's evolution is what is it? Shit, I can't remember it. I'm sorry.
That's a good saying.
What about something else?
No. I actually have it in my phone because I knew I was going to forget. Innovation is just the evolution of plagiarism. So, like,
oh, what a quote! You
guys like saw what we did, and then you just evolved what you had. Very few people have like an original idea. It's usually something that they've seen and they perfected it.
Yep.
So then like you guys solution you had there and you're like, well, we could do that. And so then the evolution of the Reb was just something you saw, which for us, Bogachita was just the evolution of us traveling all over the country and saying, we're tired of driving 15 hours to go ride something.
Right.
So I think it's awesome,
One of the things that we're stumbling upon is that community space, the evolution of the community space, and I've got a history in residential housing. I kind of grew up, and we used to try to build these community spaces. And as I'm developing and as I'm looking at these things, I think the evolution is that community space. It's exactly what the Reb has, but we wanted to kind of build things that actually encourage that. That's what we did over in Ruston whenever we built that hub, because it's a central place. And whenever our trailhead was designed, we designed it as a fair, and you have all of the rides at the fair. And so you can stay. And what's so cool about Bogue Chitto, what's the evolution of Bogue Chitto and how it's becoming really, really even better and better, you see all of those people at the trailhead. So it's not only a trailhead. We were talking today. Some people, they go to the trailhead and they never leave the trailhead. Mm-hmm. They ride all day and it's still at the trailhead. And creating those community spaces, I think that's something that's going to be a key to building trail systems in the future too.
That was actually one of my questions for you guys, in the sense that you did it. Like, obviously, not talking about how you got Bogue Chitto with the through the state and all that. That's a whole separate scenario, right? But the fact is that how did you guys, because your community is very strong and you have a variety of riders. They all seem to get along pretty well. I don't know, you can tell the truth here if you want to, but I mean, you have XC guys that seem to blend pretty well. The first time I ever met you, you were in spandex. But you have XC guys mixing with, I mean, you guys have dudes that just do slope style type stuff. And then you have guys that are doing enduro type stuff. And then you have the Reb weirdos that just pretend like we know what we're doing everywhere.
We just put flags up.
We just put flags up and hang out in a parking lot.
But you know, what the great thing about like his brilliant idea with Bogue Chitto, with this massive trailhead, is what we have issues with as mountain bikers is when you want to go to the trail, like you say, like the Reb or something like that. So if you have a wife with like a 2-year-old or something, they're not going, because they're not just going to sit in a parking lot. So the trailhead at Bogue Chitto, like we see it all the time. There's the mom with the stroller where the son's over here on the pump track, and then the dad's over at the dual slalom course, and then like they're all in the parking lot. Like some of them have easy ups with chairs, and then like they're just hanging out. And like that's something as a mountain biker, we most of the time we don't do, because we drop into the woods and we're miles away. We're gone.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I think that's amazing.
Yeah, you can have an absolute full parking lot at some of these trailheads and never see another soul the whole time you're riding.
Yep.
Because I mean, if you think about 20 miles of trails and you have 500 people riding those, you might never run into any of those people. So yeah, that's been pretty cool.
That's the one thing about Chattanooga is I don't see very many. When I go up there and ride, it'll be a full lot, but I don't see anybody because it's so, like, especially like Cloudland Canyon. Yeah. That's one of my favorite places to ride, and it's a ghost town. If you're lucky, you might see somebody on the one connector trail, but that is it. The rest of the time, it's just hooting and hollering throughout the woods. And so there's times that I want that because I need that space for my brain. But then there's other times, my wife and kids never go with me because there's nothing else for them to do whatsoever. And so I guess that's my question. Do you feel like really as we go forward, because the family unit the dynamic of family has changed, whether we like it or not, is much more inclusive than it used to be? When I was growing up, my dad would go hunting. He's gone. Yeah. F you to the family, maybe too much. Maybe there's a little sour sport there somewhere deep. But he'd be gone the whole weekend. He would never come back because he also needed that mental space, but he took too much of it. Now I could get it in doses if my wife and kids weren't afraid of bugs. They're wieners. But what is your take on that in general? Like if we're talking to other communities, because the one thing that we found on this show that's the weirdest result is that there are so many people hungry for not just what the Reb has. They're hungry for that relationship. They're hungry to the woods. They're hungry for that relationship at the bike, at the trailhead. What is an overall, what would be, both of you guys, separate answers, please, but what would your take be as they look at each other in combo? I wish I had a toucan.
So, I guess I'll go first. And honestly, it's because I'm giving him props. But like, so finding a way, because that's, me, having 5 kids, like, I couldn't find that spot where I could take the wife and the kids, because you'd go to the trailhead and you're like, all right, I'll be back in 2 hours, and you're gone. And that's it. And if something happens with your family, good luck your wife finding you or finding a cell service to like say, hey, you need to get back to the car.
Right.
So by like doing, like having a big trailhead area, and like he's got ideas like to expand the trailhead for other things other than mountain biking in the future. And like, I think that's the way to do it, is to like, which is, or like outside of the park, like stuff like that.
No, I think that's a great answer, and to kind of piggyback on that, and I do some consulting on trying to build these mountain bike communities, so I put a lot of thought into that, and it's really build something for everybody, and have some things that work. And I mean that Frisbee golf course that we have going through, the next big idea that I had is actually a bouldering climbing park inside the trailhead. And so like, even if mountain biking is not your thing and one of the kids want to go climb on a boat, I think that's going to be a really cool feature. But I think, getting creative about, something that you would want to take pictures at, something that you would want to come see, and oh my gosh, that's so cool. And one of the ideas that I came up with, this was like one of the first ideas I came up with when I did Bogachita, and I think I got everything in place that's going to get it done, is that we're actually going to build an alligator head with an 8-foot tube going through its head, and you're going to jump out of the mouth. And I think that's the kind of thing that's going to be able to bring families together, because we're going to make it in a way where everybody can go through it, but the shredders can go jump, and Dale can do his turn down out of it, take a picture out of it. But creating those things, and that's where the creativity, and that's where everybody can't just do that, because it really takes a lot of creativity to come up with those things that are gonna attract different people. And so that's where I think it's going. It's the next step of not only just taking the family out there, but this is going to be close enough to the trailhead where the whole family would actually want to go at least see it. Even if you don't ride a bike, you're going to want to go see this thing. And so creating those types of attractions inside of our mountain bike parks, I think is going to expand the appeal of mountain biking.
I think it's great. Is there any inside baseball exclusive on the show? Is there, since we have one of the builders, the primary, and the other? Can you guys give us what is the inside baseball? What is the line there that nobody knows about that you will let just the listeners to this podcast in on? I know there's some secret lines.
Hey, I made one. Remember at the end of it?
By a secret line.
Well, we can't say it publicly because we would get in trouble and maybe kicked out of the park.
Oh, I know what one.
No. All right. Is there a public line?
We can show.
Is there a string that people should put together? How about that? Is there a string of trails that you would say to put together that's like, we have strings that you guys don't know about that we go do.
I took them on one at the end, like something that's super fun, like all the way to the end.
So one of the things that we haven't opened up yet, that we take people that are coming out right now, it's more XC than anything else, but it's really, really cool. We have a go around, and we found a natural spring that actually runs on side of it, and you got to cross the spring, and it's mainly an XC trail. That's a pretty cool. That's going to be opening up, I don't know, hopefully in the next couple of weeks.
So I love his public speaker response.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
But my response is, like, we have group rides every weekend.
Yeah.
Even if we're not there, there's group rides every weekend. You want to know the secret lines? You want to know where the locals ride?
Come around.
9 o'clock on Saturday or Sunday. Show up. There's groups in the parking lot, easy ups. Just say, hey, man, are you guys riding? Yep, come on. And we will take you all over the park on the inside stuff. And I think you guys, I don't know, you definitely have.
I definitely have.
And you actually came up, like I had built like a step down for the Enduro. And this guy, out of the blue, we're just riding up the shuttle road back up. He bombs down. He jumps the step down up. And we were like, what? So now we actually do that every single day.
Thank goodness.
And that's on you,
That's
dude.
my jump. So you got to jump at our place. I got one at your place. It's
So
fair.
I'm like Drew. That is a one-way trail only. So do not.
Yeah.
Speaker again.
Yep.
Do not jump up that.
Inside lines. What do you guys think in terms of the progression that you've seen from the sport? And obviously, like, you have Summit Bike Academy, you teach, you do that stuff, and it's here. And then I got really confused because I saw we have an event coming up on the 27th, which is at Build, Tune, Ride. And then I was like, but wait, it says they're in Bentonville, Arkansas, because you've expanded and you have two. So what do you guys think in terms of like the progression that you've seen of mountain biking, like where it was right back in 2003 when you were riding the trifecta to where you are now? What are the shifts that you see occurring that excite you or piss you off. Either way, I'll take the good or the bad because I do think it's interesting. It's not always, it can't always be flat.
I have a great answer for that, right? So I had actually given up on mountain biking because if you like to jump, you like to hit a drop, you like to get a little rowdy, you are black flagged in the XC community. Don't you dare put that on my trail. Don't you even dare put it near my trail, and don't use my trail to get to your trail thing. Just no, it's got to be fast, smooth, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, I'm out. I'm done. Moto. So he takes me back, and it was really rehab. Like after my injury, he got me a mountain bike and helped me rehab. So then we get back into it. The bikes have changed. We go to one of our old straight up Lycra XC trails. There's drops, there's jump, there's skinnies, there's what. I'm like, dude, what is going on? So then he introduces me to Bentonville, and I was like, I'm done. You know, I'm a mountain bike guy again. So like the evolution of cycling to incorporate, because you can still, like you said, you can still do those big mile rides. You can still do your core XC, but you can also get rowdy, and you don't have to be black flagged as like, oh, this dude's like just some goon trying to do something stupid on the side and stack logs somewhere. And I love that about mountain biking.
Yeah, that's good. That's one of the best answers I've heard.
It's the
Now follow it up.
it's the evolution of being able to build three things on the same trail. So you have a absolute beginner green line, you have a blue line, and then you have the shredder line. But having that and having somebody having three different types of riders being able to ride the same trail. So make them wide enough and do that. We've been doing a bunch of stuff like that and thinking about that. So people can ride together, but I can still hit a 20-foot gap, or what, I can still hit that while my wife may want a trail. And on that thought, and I've always been a big, huge fan of that, the evolution of the e-bike is absolutely going to continue to change the game. I just about 4 or 5 months ago, I got the lightweight e-bike, and that thing is, I got a transition relay, and that thing is like my new favorite bike, because you can still get the cross country feel. You can tune it down as much as you want. I can get rowdy on it. I can go as fast as I want. But the coolest thing about it is that I have two other brothers, and one of them can ride, and one of them just doesn't get the opportunity to ride that much. He can handle a bike, but doesn't get that opportunity. And about a month ago, I was like, hey, why don't you jump on my e-bike? And all three of us rode in tandem and just shred. And we were all like 2-3 inches off of each other's wheel. And to be able to have that experience, it's me and him have that experience all the time. We ride close together, but to try to get somebody to get your speed, it's harder to get. But you can now have that opportunity much more often. And that ride with my brothers was just, I mean, it really was something special.
So,
and e-bikes are being able to let us.
So I'm going to drop like a Hiroshima of irony, right? So every time I've ridden with you guys, it's been on an e-bike, right?
Yep.
I think an e-bike is a very double-edged sword, right? It's like actually having a handgun without a safety, because now you have the ability to be a really bad rider and go really fast.
Fair point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think not being able to and I think maybe that's where you fill the need with Summit, because people are now being able to go way faster. Like back in the day, if you wanted to hit a jump, you had to be good enough to rail that berm to hit that jump. Now, I'll just hit it on my e-bike. I'll just roll the berm, put the sucker in turbo, and then crank into it, and then just OTB myself into the woods. You know,
That's right.
And so, like, I think it's a very double-edged sword with an e-bike.
Because they fast tracked, right? You fast track past the fitness and riding side to the next level, right? It's almost like without the morality, but it's like high fence hunting, right? You don't have time to get better at hunting or time to hunt, but I can go out here and shoot a deer that's in a fence. I know is there.
But in fairness to that same point, sometimes there's exotics in there, and that's the only way you can get to them, right? And so
That's the e-bike is the exotic
I'm
bike.
just so,
no,
so
I get
an
it.
e-bike owner. Mine's for sale, by the way. You can find it on Facebook.
Which is a very good e-bike.
Yeah, I'm the only reason I'm selling is I currently have mandated a little bit of change in myself and my riding style. Like I'm pursuing a very aggressive training schedule. I don't allow myself to ride that bike, and it's just sitting there. And I think I'm selling it for dirt cheap so that somebody else can get their hands on it. And I'm not proud of trying to make my money back. That's dumb. The bike industry is upside down, which is the next question for you guys. But I think the e-bike thing is interesting because I've seen a lot of people excel. I've seen people ride in ways that they couldn't. I've seen people get excited about it. It levels the playing field. It causes some level of accessibility in terms of that. I've seen the other direction where it's too much too soon, and there's always that challenge. But I've seen that on analog too. I think the biggest challenge we have, e-bike or not e-bike, is the amount of content that comes out that we get so much of it now that we talk about this a lot, that suddenly it's like, I watched you guys hit that. We have video of it. Make it look easy, right? Dale does stuff that makes it look easy. And then people pursue that and they follow it. And we've had a friend recently where was his place? And you haven't been riding a long time. Jared's place is legit. It's serious. And he took a damage. He took a hit from it. His bike's broken now too, I think, from it. So that was a high cost thing because a lot of the hype is getting there. So it is a mitigation game, right? I might be more conservative sometimes than others, but I do think you have to mitigate because of the content. You have to self-mitigate and say.
And so like before we change the subject, like I went a year rehabbing on an analog bike until I realized I was never going to get to the point where if we go to Bentonville or we go to Jared's and we're riding multiple days, I was never going to be able to do that with my injuries, right? And so also to piggyback what you said, my biggest issue when I'm at the park, because now we have all this crazy stuff at Boca Chica, is to like sit down with the riders because they'll see us, like you said, like the jump today. Like I just hit that jump and now like everybody's like, oh, it must be. And like to get these guys to like testosterone down and like, look, man, like you can hit that 1 foot drop. And that 1 foot drop, you're actually getting that same adrenaline rush as when I hit the big drop. Because your level is different. You don't have to hit 13-foot drop to get that adrenaline. If you've never hit a 1 foot drop, that 1 foot drop is amazing to you. So don't push yourself into the 13-footer because I have to be as cool as that other guy, you know? And we've gotten to that because it's the whole,
It's the ego check. I told Dale today.
No, we had that whole conversation today.
We did. I said, hey, this is a moment of ego check. There's not a right or wrong answer. The right answer is something great happens.
It's
the
when
wrong
you guys
answer
are
is
pushing back up.
Yeah.
And
something bad happens. You make that decision. Like at the end of the day, you have to make it. Nobody around you can make it for you. You have to get to that point. This is going to sound like a commercial, but I'll say it's the truth. But there's things that I learned in that class when I took it originally from Toby that have benefited me. Riding places I have not necessarily no business, but no skill set. Phoenix, Arizona, dude, that riding's totally different than anything I've ever been on in my life. And so hitting that, being able to hit these drops, and the guide was like, oh, you're good enough. And he just took off and he was awesome. And he was right. I was good enough. But he evaluated me. He made me ride evaluation trails and he said, hey, someone's taught you. And he was like, I could tell someone's taught you. He was like, you could improve here. It's my jumping. That's not Toby's fault. It rained during the jump. So I'll blame that. But the guy pushed it. And so to say that like having that training and having coaching, that kind of stuff, if you want to really be that guy that wants to play the ego check game, you've got to put in a little bit extra time. And it's not just fitness. You got to put in time of like training.
We also talked about it. I don't know, was it you or you? I think it was both of you maybe. But it was like we also, as riders that maybe are more advanced than other people, we know who to talk into doing stuff, right? And who to not. It was you. Who to not talk into doing things. So like you guys with me today, you're like, dude, you can do this. Like you're skill wise, but it's like we're not going to talk people that have no business into doing something into doing what we're doing, right? Like it's a good balance of being able to know who you're talking to.
In what's awesome, like I actually had a conversation with him on the way up here, like what's great about the coaching side, like what he does is we took the head crashes, we took the bashes to learn how to hit those gaps and hit those drops. And now when all these people get in and cycling in their middle age and they don't have those month crashes, those months out of work. And so by being able to find a coach and being able to him to help you get past that curve, so then you can go somewhere that you had no business being, and then knowing your limits, now you can actually ride. Whereas in the past, you'd have had to take that crash to say, okay, I shouldn't do that.
That's right.
Well, mountain biking is a very uncontrolled sport, and what you do with Summit is make it more of a controlled environment.
And this was not meant to be a commercial. I just think it was relevant to the conversation. It was actually relevant.
Yeah.
Well, and really, I mean, the reason why I did Summit, the reason why I wanted to create Summit was because there was a need. And, I mean, I've never said this publicly, but don't
Exclusive.
don't let the money thing, if you can't afford lessons, call me up and talk to me, because I really want to get people on the trail safely. And there are definitely some things that I can teach that are very, very simple, that we can get you safe and doing it safe, and talk through the progression. So, often with my clients, whenever they come in and they talk to me, I'll tell them that it's like, look, if you can't afford it, call me. I'll try to work something out with you. I mean, I'm not in this. I make enough money. I've been very blessed with my real job. I don't have to worry about that. So, I'm doing the Summit thing is serious, but it is for fun for me. I mean, I'm not going to retire on the Summit thing.
No, for sure. So let me tee up a couple more questions, and we'll close this puppy out. One, the state of the bike industry is completely jacked. Like I don't know if y'all heard.
We're on a Joe Rogan-ish podcast tangent.
Yeah,
it's like the fourth one in a row.
But it is. The state of the industry is messed up. It's totally different. I mean, if you look at the cost of bikes has changed, which is actually better. It's more accessible because it was inflated for a while. But I do see less people. We had this big surge of riders, right? Which is the data says big surge, and then that surge has fallen off. And then bike prices, companies are Trek laid off a bunch of people a couple weeks ago.
Don't say the K word. Don't say the K word.
Yeah, well, that whole situation with them is brutal. What did you guys take on that? I mean, what are you staying on? Because you're both in the industry one way or the other. You're building trails, right? You're a trail advocate. You're looking at new stuff. We've seen a rider increase, but it didn't. My light finally died. It didn't. Sorry, it didn't necessarily stay the same spot forever. I mean, what did you guys take?
So I can chime in first. So like for me, when I got out of mountain biking in like 2012, 5Gs, you were buying the top of the line mountain bike, like, the all bells and whistles, whatever you want to call it. And then when I got back into in 19 with him, like $5,000 is getting you like NX component bike, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And like almost cable brakes, and I couldn't believe at before the, industry drop, whatever you want to call it, like I could get a factory edition dirt bike for thousands cheaper than your just not a special edition, just your mountain bike with good stuff. It had to break. It had to, because who the hell is going to spend $15,000 on an analog bike?
No, and I think that definitely has been a problem. I think I love whenever you go through the downside, whenever you go through markets from the business perspective, because you got to sharpen your skills. And I'm hoping that the bike industry really looks at this, and the people that survive from it, I think definitely will, is sharpen your business skills and make sure you're understanding the customer, you're understanding the consumer, and really listening to them of what they want, and getting all of your costs down, and to try to figure that out. But I think it was so easy to make money during the pandemic where they got lazy and they got lackadaisical. And I think by there's a huge opportunity, and the reason that a huge opportunity is going to be coming from all of the money that's going into the bike trails. I often tell people whenever, Bogachita is an hour and a half away from 1.2 million people that really don't understand. So there's still opportunity to grow the sport. And if our companies can become more efficient and bring the price and keep the prices down while they still make money, there's definitely going to be some opportunities, because the public is spending a lot of money into mountain biking. And so like there's going to be opportunity for there. And you know what? Maybe we have to figure out how the boutique mountain bike companies need to get their price points some of their price points down. They can still have the higher end, but they can still get some of their price points down. And they're experiencing that with direct to consumer and direct to the bike shop. And they need to definitely find their way with there. We need our local bike shops. We need to make sure, and one of the companies that transitioned, the company that I worked for, you can either get it online or you can go through the bike shop and get it through the bike shop. And so like I keep on telling people, why would you not want to go through your local bike shop to get this same bike? And I think that the transition's got the model right, is that they're given that option to get it to direct to consumer, but they also are going through their local bike shop, and you get all of the service and you get all the explanation. So it's going to be interesting to see where it goes, but I think there's a whole lot of opportunity.
And that's how like in tune we are, right? Because like while he was talking, first thing that came to my mind is you really need to support your local bike shop like Built to Ride, because yeah, I might spend $1,000 or $1,500 more than buying a bike online, but when you like have that relationship with the bike shop. Like I have a relationship with my bike shop. I don't even ask them what the price is, because if I go in there and I'm having a warranty issue or just a product issue, like they just make it right. Like I give them the bike. They don't give me crap. They don't tell me, well, we can order. Like, no, they'll take it. We'll make it right. And if we have to put, rent a part, whatever you want to call it, like a wheel or whatever, we'll put that on your bike and we'll get your wheel right. And that doesn't happen the first time you show up at the bike shop. You have to build, a relationship. But like at the same time, like if all of these like specialized going to online only, and then like my local bike shop, East Bank Cycles with Eric Howley, which he's awesome dude and a trail builder. But like he was a Trek sale. He still sells Trek, but they have like a Trek store like in our area. And so he has like, if he tries to order a Trek, it's back ordered, but I can go to the bike shop, I can go to the Trek store and it's on hand. And they literally will not give him the bike. They'll put it on back order. And it's like, they're killing that local bike shop. And I don't see where that goes.
It's the thing that we've talked about is one of the challenges is
This podcast has been so good. I'm gonna ruin it because I gotta pee.
Oh, thank God. Oh, thank God.
Wait, so me and
oh, sir.
Jum. I think
I was shaking at some point.
are we still rolling?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to cut because that makes my life harder.
Can we talk about them while they're going
Yeah,
to
of
the
course.
bathroom?
Yeah.
I think they're horrible people. No.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting. It is just sitting here while they're peeing. I do think it's an interesting scenario of I don't know Steve beyond this, right? But like Dale's a little more jockish than, I mean, I'm a nerd and we joke about it all the time. But the great thing about our bromance is that we tend to balance each other out in a weird way, right? So in some ways it seems like his ADHD offsets your sharp focus, and it's the same sort of thing. He's sometimes more focused. I'm the creative weirdo and he's more focused than me. And sometimes so having him like on set with me, believe it or not, Dale reins me in sometimes more so. It seems like the same sort of vibe on that side.
So Steve's helped me so much. I mean, he is definitely the artistic guy, on creating these features and the trail work, and together we mishmash and come up with something great. I definitely I could have never done any of this stuff without all of the people, and Steve is definitely probably at the top of that list.
Yeah, it is funny to me that the whole idea of the core, how we got together was mountain biking, but the benefits of like all the different things, like again, would have I've said it for him, but would have looked at him and been like, that effing jock, like whatever. But the benefits of that, yeah, you're good, dude. The benefits of that dynamic and that relationship are like vastly enhance my life. I had to apologize to him one time. I was just in a fucking rotten mood and was just a total, and he called to check on me because I just refused to ride with anybody. I was just in a bad mood. And he's like, hey, are you okay? I was like, well, now I have to eat crow. And I sat there, it teared me up because I was like, it was one of those gut checks. Is that,
getting the relationships that we have through mountain biking, we talked about a whole bunch of stuff, but that bromance that you get through mountain biking and going through what Steve and I went through, I mean, I will never forget this as long as I live. One of the most special moments in my life. Sorry, Missy. Sorry, my wife. But one of the coolest things was, taking him through that rehab process, getting so close to him. There has never been a bro ride. I can remember it like it was yesterday that we went to Bentonville, and we were shredding. And this guy, I mean, I don't know, was it like a year after your accident?
Probably not even that long.
Not even a year, and we're hitting all of those drops and all of those huge gaps. And I mean, after, we didn't even have to say anything. We just kind of looked at each other and just hugged each other.
Yeah.
And it was cool.
I'll tell you how stupid I am, right? So
Welcome to steveisstupid.com.
So I'm going to I'm not working at this point. I'm going to rehab every day, right? And so I'd say about 3 months after the wreck, I got my dirt bike. I had one of those bike rack styles to put my dirt bike on the back, right? So I go to rehab, and then my physical therapist, she sees the moto on the back of my Jeep, and she's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Well, when I'm done with you, I'm going to the track." And she's like, "What?" She says, "You didn't tell me that. I didn't see it. I don't know it. I don't want to hear it."
Dear Lord.
And at the same time, because I'd wrecked my shoulder, so they have this thing where there's a gauge on the wall, and they want you to walk your fingers up the wall to get movement back, and then you start here and you go to there, and then so that's what I'm doing, and then I'm going to my car to get my moto helmet on.
Oh, dear Lord.
Insane.
But and then also, maybe a week after the wreck, I pulled my bicycle out into the street, right? And because my legs are so messed up, I couldn't do a rotation.
Wow.
So I get out and I'm going
Pedal kicking all the way through?
pedal kicking around the street, and then the wife pulls up and she's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm riding."
He's like a mummy with all the gauze just out in the street.
I got my kids standing on both sides of me in case I was gonna take them down, right? We were gonna all go down, but yeah, I'm just just around it just so I could just get it, and I think that's the way we are. We have that mental state, you're not putting me down. I haven't lost any limbs, and even if I do, I'm sticking a piece of wood in there. I'm getting back out, because it's that mental health thing. Yeah.
I get it. I totally get it. So I do want to bring this up because we're running a little beefy. Events coming up. Anything coming up for you guys that we want to talk about? Because I know it's not till normally October. When is
October is the roller coaster loves in October. We're gonna have a guy come build our skills park, backyard trail builder, and hopefully that'll get going.
Not just a guy.
Yeah, he's legit.
I know.
Steve and I are just guys. We're talking about
I don't know if we don't have time. I know we're running off, but
Yeah, if you've been to Howler Park and you've visited the Wizard,
well, he's come and build stuff at Bochitta.
guy.
He is so awesome. Seth with Backyard Trail Builders. You need to go check his stuff out. But we do have on May 19th, we're going to have a little bit of a mini festival membership drive that we're going to come out. We're going to have that group ride that Steve talked about. You can come out and ride. We're going to have an all-female ride. I'm going to give a free clinic. We're going to have some barbecue. Then we're going to have a jump jam that day. So May 19th, we just kind of throwing that together right now. And then we're all preparing for the Roller Coaster of Love. That's going to be the first weekend in October.
And I think it's happened maybe 4 years now or 3 years now.
Fourth year. Of
Red Bull
Yeah.
comes out every year, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that is a great time because we usually do a full day because obviously not everybody's hitting the wooden kickers and throwing flips and tricks and all. So we kind of do a whole event, and then we end up, which brilliant. He ended up getting those construction lights that they use on the highway, and he lights up the jumps, which is actually an amazing feeling because you're riding through the dark woods, and then the first jump you come out and it's just lights.
Yeah.
So it's almost like your rock star moment, right? When you get to ride it, but the environment. And you were there for that, right?
I was
you
the guest judge, right?
Yeah, you were.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
We need you back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of y'all back. Field park.
It's hard for me.
Nah, it's hard.
I'm the one with the wacky schedule.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's all lined up. They can also, if you're interested in coaching and classes, they can head over to shredwithsummit.com. I got it right?
Yes, Shred with Summit.
I kept saying Shred for Summit for a long time because we had Shred for Sloan on. Steve, can they follow you on Instagram for motorcycle? I saw some footage of you back on a moto though. Is that was on Facebook or Instagram or somewhere?
Yeah, I mean that's last weekend or like I'm.
You sent it though. It was big.
Oh.
It seemed big to me.
The rhythm, it
Yeah.
was definitely big. It's kind of like a jump rhythm, and I gapped the jump rhythm. But yeah, it's good times, man. But
120?
So I think on Instagram, Hater422, and then just Steve Scuderi on Facebook.
And the Vogue Files.
Oh, dude, you know what? If I do not bring up the Vogue Files, so my crew, which you guys have seen all the jumps, the wooden kickers and all that. Like I have a crew that just I put together, and these guys are just soldiers. Like they spend 3 to 4 hours every day. They go out there, watering, push broom, shovels, and then they ride. They never go out there and then just put their pads on and go.
Right.
Like these guys are soldiers. I love this too.
You can check them out on the Vogue Files.
Yep, the Vogue Files. Like you'll see plenty of videos of all of those goons. It's just
And that's Instagram?
yeah, Vogue Files is on Instagram as well. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, good. Anything else?
Nope, I think I'm good.
And my thing doesn't work, so we're going to kick it around. Just remember what Toby Cortez says.
I love mountain biking.
Man on a mission, I'ma get it. You know I be on a what?